Well, howdy. Here we go, right? I promised you guys that I would deal with textiles. But I feel like I need to have a caveat or two here. Number one, I am not a learned individual. I do not have any degrees. Yes, I spent 3 glorious years in the 10th grade, graduated high school at the tender age of 22. I spent well over 50 years now in the University of the School of Hard Knocks, and I will never get a degree from that one, but I will always be learning. So let's understand something. As we go forward with this story right here, I'm telling you my opinion. I am allowed to tell you what I saw, what I lived, what I experienced, what other people around me experienced. And hear me, I have no apologies to make, ever. Okay? And once we understand that, the first thing that we need to talk about, and I want you to get this, I want you to get the whole story. Who were these mill workers that made the cotton mills run? Because there came a time when the Industrial Revolution was full force and cotton mills came on the scene. Well, you got to have workers, right? The workers that went into these cotton mills, I would dare say 90% of them in the early days were farmers, sharecroppers. Hard days they spent in fields. Now you young folk today, bless your darling little hearts. You couldn't pick a half a row of cotton without having a heat stroke. But I want you to picture, you got a burlap sack around your neck, right? And you got a whole field, maybe a 5-acre field of cotton out here, row after row after row after row of cotton. It's early in the morning. It's probably right before daylight, really. And you've already had a big old plate of eggs and big old cat head biscuits with homemade jam or jelly. Maybe if it's the right time of year, you had some cantaloupe to go with it. And that's all you're going to get till dinner, Buster. There ain't going to be no snack breaks. So you're standing there as the sun begins to come up, and you've got this big old burlap sack around your neck here. And your daddy says, start here and go there. And when you get down to the end, turn around and come back. And you got to pick the cotton. The cotton plant ain't but about 2.5 feet off the ground, really. So you've been over picking cotton all the way down there. You get to the end, and you say, well, I'm halfway full. And you pick the next road, you come all the way back. Now your sack's full, so you think. You take it to your daddy and you say, look, Daddy, I filled it up. He says, well, let's see. And he shakes that sack, and all of a sudden it's half full again. He says, no, I believe you can get a little more in there. You got to pick another 2 rows just to get that one sack full, and you got to do that all day long. 1 hour off for lunch. By the way, your daddy can tell what time of day it is by where the sun is in the sky, so don't try to fool him. Well, that's the kind of worker that came into the cotton mill. The cotton mills offered you an opportunity to have a job where your pay would be stable and you would not be dependent on Mother Nature. Now, here's what I mean by that. If the farmer had a good year and the crop was good and he got it in good fashion, got it up in the market, got it in town, he can make pretty good money for that day. If you're in a drought, the farmer's not making what he would normally make. Neither does his hands make what they would normally make. Neither does the general store owner uptown make what he would normally make. This is why people had running credit, for example. They give you the seed for the next year, hoping the next year would be a better year, and you bring in a bountiful harvest, and you pay back whatever you owed, and then have enough left to see to your own family. You follow what I'm saying here? So many things. I mean, a lot of the farmers and sharecroppers, they ran moonshine operations. And not just because they like to drink it, because it became an extra cash crop, if you will, an extra way to make money when the weather was bad or during the off season. My granddad still made homemade wine when he left Clay County, moved down to Chambers County, and started driving a taxi. And I'll never forget, he told me one day, "Hugh, come in, have you a sip of this. It'll go down like a milkshake and blow the seat slap out of your drawers." Well, you've heard me say this before. I knew if I drank that little mason jar full of that concoction, I probably wouldn't be able to drive home because I didn't drink at all whatsoever. So this is the kind of people then, when these meals come along all of a sudden. It didn't work good at first because the farmer, the sharecropper, they would go work in the mills during the winter, and when planting time came, back to the farm they'd go. So now, the mill owners have a problem. They have a workforce, but not what they would call a stable, year-round workforce. How do you handle that? Well, houses started to spring up around the mill village. These became, actually, they began to spring up around the mills. The houses became the mill village. In the early days, these mill village houses held 2 families. You'll notice 2 front doors on most of them that's still standing. And you had a family on the left side, a family on the right side. And this is the way they produced workers. Because these mill village houses had things that the farmer didn't have. Inside running water, inside electric lights. Just modern conveniences. And gradually, people began to leave the farms and go to the mills. And the mills became the economic force that they were. People argue to this day, but when I look back on it and I remember the stories I've been told, every mill had a nurse. I well remember my daddy taking me to a mill nurse when I woke up one day and my face all swole out and my eyes almost shut. And he had to leave me down there by the hand and come to find out I was allergic to poison oak. Duh. The mill nurses might as well be doctors too, even when I was a boy. And their work, as you can see, wasn't just for workers in the mill. Anybody in the village could go down to the nurse's office and at least be diagnosed before they had to go to a doctor. Time went on. New machinery became available. The mills grew. The mill villages grew. The villages grew to the place where the mill owners knew that there were needs that needed to be met. In time, every mill village had a gymnasium, a baseball field, a movie theater, a general store, barber shop. A mill village became a self-contained community. You didn't have to leave the mill village unless you wanted to go up to the big city of West Point, Georgia, and do some fancy shopping at Kessler's or the Top Dollar store and places like that. You could just literally live your life in the mill village. These are the people that worked the mills. My heart is with these people to this day. These people made this towel. These people made these sheets. These people made many things, even carpet at one time. And now all we have left is this. We're going to go on a journey here, neighbor. I wanted you to meet the people today that ran these mills. Hard working people. Sharecroppers, farmers took care of their own. So it was in the mill village. You knew your neighbors from one end of the street to the other. And in spite of what some people might say when I look back on it now, don't you think it's a pretty big deal that every mill village had a recreation department? And all the other things I described to you? The mill owners created these villages. These villages became towns. And down the road, 4 of those towns would combine into one city. Without the mill owners, there would never have been a school. I'm sure there would have been at some point, but it would have took a long time. West Point Pepperell started the first kindergarten program in our day. And I remember other stories like, I'm just a little too old to remember this, but at Christmas, there was a community day for the whole mill village, and all the kids got a toy and a sack of fruit. Visit from Santa. So many things that went a really hard way and died a really harsh death. When I get to that part of this story, I'm going to have to really, really listen to my wife, who said to me, "Hugh, remember, those people might not have done right, but they need Jesus too." And I don't need to say anything that would make them say, if that's a Christian, I don't want to be one. Nevertheless, there's a story to be told here, and I intend to tell it. I make no apologies. And just looking down the road, just so you know, you want to sue me for having an opinion, you're going to have to walk straight through the First Amendment to do that. I'm going to tell you what I think. Mill Village people were good people. They were hard-working people. They were family people. They were community people. We rose and fell together. No widow ever cooked a meal for at least a week. Her husband passed. There were people in and out of the house all the time. She didn't even have to wash the dishes. Story after story I could tell. But I'm trying to keep these videos to 10 minutes or so you don't lose interest. This is going to be a journey I'm going to equally enjoy. It's a little sad, really. My department might have been just inside this bridge right here. I was in the spooler room, dumping yarn, working on the elevator. Tried to be a fixer one time, that didn't work out. Wasn't built for that, but I'm built for this story, and I hope you'll stay with me while I tell it. God bless your heart for being here. I hope I primed you a little bit for this journey. We're going to take it together. And feel free, please do this for me, would you? Mill Village people, when we start this, give me some feedback. Give me some comments. Tell me your stories. Add to this story if you want to. I will not use your name unless you tell me to. Every one of us has a story to tell on Textiles. I want to hear yours, but I can't make you tell it. Subscribe and join this little family of ours. Tell your story to me. Let's have a conversation. We need to preserve this because apologists are going to just write it the way they want you to think it happened. They don't want you to know about junk bonds. They don't want you to know about hostile takeovers or the rich, self-made millionaires who destroyed good companies like West Point Pepperell. See, there I go. Got to watch my mouth a little bit. You come back and be with me again. I love every one of you. Mill Village people, I will never forget you, and I'll do my part to make sure the world never does it. God bless your hearts. I love you. Bye-bye.